What's going on, guys? I'm Bill and welcome to Bill's How To. Today I'm going to show you guys how to cut out the hinge location on your doors to get a perfect finish just like that. We're going to be using a chisel and hammer. Let's get straight into it, guys. Let's do this. Alright guys, so today I'm going to show you how to notch out your hinge location on your doors. Nice and simple using a chisel and hammer. And the reason why I'm showing you guys how to do it with a chisel and hammer, this is the traditional way to do it and you might not always have a router on hand. So first things first, we're going to take our 85mm standard hinge here, going to line that up into position, and we're going to trace around the perimeter. Now making sure that you've got a nice sharp pencil, especially if you're using a thick carpenter's pencil like this, you want it as accurate as possible. Trace around the edge. So now we've got the perimeter marked out with the pencil. The next thing we're going to do is factor in the depth of our cut. Now this one here is a 3mm hinge in thickness. So we're going to factor in 3mm right here on the face. Number one, that's going to ensure that we've got a clean cut along the face here because this section here is exposed. When the hinge is installed, as the door opens and closes, you'll be able to see that little edge there. And if you don't clean that up nicely, you're going to be left with a really ugly looking finish. So always mark up a little section right here for the thickness. Number two, that's also going to be a guide for how deep we're going to go down with our chisel. So we can just simply line that up on the side here. Mark it on either side. And now we know roughly how thick our hinge is going to be. So at that point, you can take a utility knife and just score a little line along the edge here, all the way across. A little bit hard to do in this position, just making sure you guys have still got an angle that you can see. So now that we've scored a line along the edge here, that's going to make sure that we've got a nice clean face once we're done. And at the same time, we've also got a guide for how deep to go with our chisel. So now we can take a nice sharp chisel and we're going to chisel around the perimeter. What you want to make sure of is the flat side is facing out. That's going to ensure that you get a nice straight line. Mark it up just before the pencil line. Give it a nice little tap. Follow it all the way around, making sure the flat side, not the tapered side, is facing out and it's just before that pencil line. Try keep your blows as consistent as possible, or your taps. Once again, just before that pencil line. And now we can use this as a reference guide for how deep we need to go. So I can say I need to go just a little bit more on this side here. That's now perfect. Now we're going to take our chisel once again and we're going to make a series of cuts going all the way across, keeping it on an angle. So you don't want it up nice and straight like that. Keep it on a little bit of an angle and we're just going to make a series of cuts all the way across. Once again, you can refer back to your little scored line here and use that as a reference point. Keep your taps consistent. So once we've completed the series of cuts, this is what it ends up looking like. You can see some of it started to break away here at the edge, and that's why this little reference point or this scored line that we made across the edge is so important. It leaves everything nice and clean. And you can see there, it just simply wants to break off on the edge. We're left with a perfect line. If you don't have this line here, your reference point is missing, and you also run the risk of running your chisel just a little bit too low, and it leaves a really ugly finish on the face here. So now we take our chisel, use the flat side once again, and we're going to run it up against our little series of cuts here. We're going to be running it in the opposite direction to what we initially made. So just simply run that off the top, and you can see there those little chunks all come out. The vast majority of that material will simply flake off. And now the majority of our work has been done here. So now I'll quickly clean off this edge here, any other loose material that might be left behind, and we can see we've got a nice working edge right here. So we take our chisel, keep the flat side down, and we're going to run it with that little line that we've created and remove all that material. So always use a chisel against you or away from you, working that corner of the chisel to level everything off. Always use the corner of the chisel and just try pivot it across, and you're going to use all those individual slots to help you get a level playing field. Clean out all the edges, make sure there's no material left in there. That might prevent your hinge from sitting down flat or flush. So now you can take your chisel and lightly run it over the top, feeling for any of those bumps or imperfections, all the way to the edge. Make sure it's nice and clean and flat. Same thing on the other side, really light. And once all the material's been cleared, we can then take the hinge, make sure everything fits, nice tight fit, perfectly flush on top. That is exactly what we're after, guys. And the best part about it is that we've got no damage down on the base here, so you won't have any little chunks missing. We've got a nice, crisp, clean finish, all done using a hammer and chisel. So there you have it, guys. That's how to cut the hinge location on your door using only a chisel and hammer. Nice and simple. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. You've learned something new. Get out there and give it a go yourself. As always, like, comment and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Bill. Thanks for watching Billshowto.